She was born 7 years before the First World War. The state won't tell us exactly who she is. In fact, she may actually be a he. But the oldest licensed driver in Texas is 107 years old and still legal to drive a car. Well, after the age of 79, all Texas drivers have to do is get their eyes tested for a 6-year renewal.
And after turning 85, you just have to appear in person every other year. Is this the best way to keep roads safe? Channel 8's Byron Harris reports.
This is a story about driving and getting old. Could be about me. I might be old enough to be your father. I might be old enough to be your grandfather. But statistics show that if I live long enough, I'll probably get Alzheimer's. And before that, I could well go into a state of physical decline. But recent incidents indicate that the state of Texas may be more anxious to keep drivers like I might someday be on the road than it is to keep them off. News 8 investigates. James Pickles lived in Dallas. In July of 2010, Pickles got in his car to run a couple of errands. Police found him hours later in Houston, disoriented.
People were calling in because he was wavering in and out of the road.
That fall, Mr. Pickles went to the DMV to have his expired license renewed. He was 89. He walked with a shuffle. He was hard of hearing. His daughter, Pat, took him, certain that he would be declined a new license.
I'm standing behind Dad while he's taking the test, and I'm going, he's 89. 89 years old. She still gave it to him.
Texas DPS regulations say driver's license representatives are trained to evaluate an applicant's physical appearance and conduct a basic medical evaluation on every individual who applies for a driver's license. About 6 months later, Mr. Pickles got in his car again, late at night, and ended up at a truck stop in Colbert, Oklahoma, again disoriented. Police were called. Sharon Pickles had to pick him up. They took him to have a physical at the Dallas VA, where he was diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment and severe hearing impairment. They filed that physical with an investigation request, assuming his license would be canceled.
It was surprising to us that they would even issue another license, given the information that we had for them.
Their father died of natural causes last year, and they loved him dearly. But they think elderly Texas drivers need more stringent physical and mental testing than they get now. They're not the only ones.
So I've got a scar all the way from almost my knee up to my pelvis.
Jerry Walls was hit head-on by 82-year-old Vernell Ingram, going the wrong way on an off-ramp on Interstate 20 near Weatherford.
We all know that at some point age is a factor.
I don't remember.
After nearly killing Wall, Mrs. Ingram was allowed to take a driving test 4 more times and failed. Records show she missignaled, made bad turns, and hit a pole. She was allowed to take the test a 5th time and passed. Texas has more than 434,000 drivers over 80 years of age on the road. We asked the state how many of those drivers took the driver's test last year and how many failed. It didn't have an answer to that question. How many older drivers are actually driving with dementia? Are there any?
Oh, yes. Dementia is very prevalent. As you know, it's an amazing problem.
Sue Cohen of Kansas City sits before a picture of her son, Nathan. 3 years ago, he was killed by an 83-year-old woman while riding in a bicycle lane near Johns Hopkins University. She ran over him and trapped him under the car. He eventually died from oxygen deprivation. Cohen and her husband founded AFODS, Americans for Older Driver Safety, in an effort to have licensing requirements stiffened for older drivers. And did just more people have to get killed before something happens?
Well, I'm afraid that's always been the solution in this country, which is largely a car culture.
For nationwide reform, each state would have to change its laws independently. The biggest opponent, AARP, which supports safety but opposes any stiffer regulations based on age.
We're not going to pick on folks when they turn a magical age of 79 or 80 or 85 or 90.
The caregiver is the one that has the hard time.
Which brings us back to James Pickles' daughters.
He would say things like, "I've been driving longer than you've been alive."
It is agony for a child to tell a parent they can no longer drive. The sisters looked to the state for a little help. They got a dead end. Byron Harris, Channel 8 News.